So roughly 2 weeks ago, we had Economy 2.0, and that came out. It updated a bunch of the game's economy, it updated a bunch of the game's systems, and it changed a bunch of the balancing in Cities Skylines 2 for what I consider to be the better. And then we all thought that was it. We're probably not going to get another update for a little while, but we were wrong, because about a week later, we had Detailers Patch number 1, which came out with new roundabouts, it came out with new vehicles, it came out with 27 new service building variants, and it also came with the surface tool being available in Cities Skylines 2 without the need for any mods. And keep in mind, that's exciting because that means that when the console version comes out that we talked about yesterday, well, console players are going to have the surface tool as well. Now, before we jump into talking about all of that and a whole lot more, we are going to be focusing on Linden here today and making some upgrades, but you might be wondering how Linden is doing after the death wave. Well, it's better and worse in a handful of ways. Not everybody's dead anymore, although there are a handful of places where they are, but a lot of people are sick and a lot of people have way too much garbage for their own good. So we're going to have to deal with all of that today. But first, I just want to come down to my suburbs and replace all of these old roundabouts with the new ones that have the trees in the middle. And by the way, did I mention that you can now zone on roundabouts? This, I feel validated is how I feel being able to do this now, because since I first started playing this game, I have been using these roundabouts as little cul-de-sacs, and there were people who were like, man, I wish you would stop doing that. They're roundabouts, they're not cul-de-sacs. Well, look at me now. I've got zoning on my roundabouts, and it's fantastic. Absolutely love this. I also love the fact that we have some variants for this. So if I wanted the little bit of paved stuff in the middle with a bush, I can have that. I can have a tree in there as well. And of course, this applies to all of the larger roundabouts as well. So we have a medium roundabout here. We could have a tree and some bushes. We could have it paved with a single tree. I think for this one, we'll go for the tree and some bushes. And then out this way, we'll go for something slightly larger. We'll go for, well, maybe not something slightly larger. We'll go for this guy, since I think that kind of looks the part out here by the elementary school. And then for the highway roundabouts, I think we go for this one with the paving right in the middle. I don't know why, but it just seems like it kind of makes sense for the highways. We'll do the same thing in here. We'll do the same thing just up here. I think that's a slightly larger roundabout. And then all the way up there, we have this one, which is a larger roundabout as well. So we'll go for this guy, which again, I just think makes sense. I would like to address some of these concerns with healthcare. There's a lot of people waiting for ambulances around Linden right now, and I would reckon that part of that's probably because of the garbage. Maybe they're getting sick because of some pollution. I've also realized that we don't really have much in the way of healthcare out in the Newmarket direction right here. So why don't we play around a little bit with the small medical clinic, which is one of the new service buildings that got added to Cities Skylines 2 in Detailers Patch number 1, which, by the way, Detailers Patch number 1 kind of implies the existence or the planned existence of a Detailers Patch number 2 and beyond. So that's, I'm just saying, that's kind of a big deal. I think that's kind of huge. So let's just come in here and see if we can build another little area dedicated to some healthcare around here. I'm also getting this weird ghosting thing when I remove certain props. I'm pretty sure it's a DLSS issue, but I'm not really too bothered by it. It's not the end of the world if we're seeing a little bit of ghosting right there. Now, I will say I don't want to have junctions super close together here. So maybe what we do is, well, we could just connect this straight down, or I could go ahead and elevate between this point and that point so we get something with a little bit more support on it that might look a little bit better. So right about there, yeah, that does look a whole lot better. And then with a key right about there and a key right about there, that gives us something pretty good to work with. It gives us a nice flat space for a medical clinic or whatever it is I want to put in here. So for now, let me get another road. Let me come off of here and let's figure out some parking. Now, this time around, I'm not going to build a custom parking lot. And I'm not going to do that because another thing that came in Detailers Patch number 1 was a bunch of new parking lots. We have things like motorcycle parking. We have some covered parking lots, we have long parking lots, we have wide parking lots, and we have all sorts of different parking lots now that I'm, you know, keen to use a little bit, but I don't need them. Unfortunately, I discovered more mods before this update came out, so I feel a little bit bad sitting here like, well, they're great, but I don't need them. We'll use them anyway. Now, let me see. What have you got? Have you got any upgrades? This thing actually doesn't have any upgrades. It has 6 employees. It has 3 vehicles. Interesting. Maybe we should give you an operating district. Maybe you only operate in Newmarket and Applegate Corner and McGregor Island. Maybe down to Pinewood as well. Maybe that's about as far as you go. We should probably turn this into a district, and we should probably turn this into a district. In fact, let's absolutely do that real quick. Let's get ourselves a couple of new districts in here. So we want to start on this corner, and let's say that this can probably become like a new sort of, I mean, Thornton Gardens isn't a bad name. It doesn't really look like a Thornton Gardens. This kind of does, but we'll just paint a little something something into this space here. That gives us Ravenwood Croft, which honestly I don't mind. So you know what? Let's go to you. Let's operate in those districts as well. And then this one's just going to get left out because I'm a monster, apparently. So looking at this whole thing, I think it is going to make sense to have the slightly larger medical clinic in here just because it has got 5 vehicles and it's also expandable with another ambulance depot and an extension wing. So I'm not really against this idea. And I think we will put the ambulance depot right about there. I might even want to try and move this extension wing a little bit, which is completely possible. If I turn off all of the snapping, I can sort of freeform this thing a little bit. And I kind of want to do that so I can get those hedges at the front of the building to line up, something kind of like that. It's not absolutely perfect, but honestly, once I get some more detailing in here, you'll never really notice that they don't line up perfectly. So that's completely fine. And I think that looks good. I do think that looks the part. This little guy, I mean, I hate to say it. I don't really know what to do with it. I want to use it. I've kind of got no idea. If we have snapping enabled, I guess it could go here and it sort of acts as like another little cap with the bushes there. So maybe that's what we do. And maybe we go in here and say that this is actually going to be a full-size road. And this guy is also going to be a full-size road. And so with all of that placed, I guess we can come in here and do a little hedge at the back just like that to surround everything. I did put another extension wing right here. And over on this side, I suppose we could kind of do the same thing. Now, I've just realized that the hedge sizes are a little bit different here. So this one's a bit taller. I guess we can kind of get away with this. I'm not really against sort of changing up a little bit. So we'll put this guy right here. We'll put this guy right about here. So it goes right down to the road. This whole thing, honestly, there's going to be a bunch of trees back here anyway. So it doesn't really matter if the hedges are different sizes. This one can be taller for whatever reason. And I guess this space in front is going to be for a bit of parking and also probably for some kind of little park. So if, you know, you happen to be in the medical clinic for a while for whatever reason, you can just go and chill for a little bit in some kind of park, which sounds like a great time. So we have these long parking lots, which are a pretty good size. We have these canopy covered ones, which are, it's eight parking spots. It's pretty cool looking. It's just not a lot of space. Got this little tiny one we can play with. We've got the motorcycle one as well. I think we'll just go ahead and use the long parking lot. And I think what we'll do is go for here. We'll go for here and we'll go for here. So that gives us plenty of space to put detailing in here and some nice, you know, grass work and surface work and things like that. This area down here, not really too sure what it's going to be yet, but we'll figure that out. I'm also thinking we probably want to get some grass on these roads so people aren't going to be parking on them since we're going to have these dedicated parking lots anyway. So we'll get grass around all of those. That'll force people into this space. And I guess we just need to figure out what else is going in this space. And maybe just for the hell of it, we use the new small police station down here so that we have this as essentially a little center for the emergency services. That doesn't seem like a terrible idea at all. Now, I would like to bring this terrain up to the train tracks here. I'm not too sure how well this is going to behave, but I want to see if I can maybe get away with elevating all of this, and then we'll maybe bring this over as well, something kind of like this. We'll start hitting it with a bit of a smoothing tool back this way, just so it's a little bit easier to look at. This whole thing, honestly, let me level you a little bit so I can hit you with a smoothing tool and make it look a little bit better. Just like so. That really didn't do much for it, actually. It's this corner that's bothering me, but we'll deal with that in a second. The reason I wanted to do this with the train track is because I can now go in and say, hey, there's now a retaining wall on the train tracks, which I don't love the way Cities 2 handles shadows for things like this, but let's be honest, it's kind of cool looking having the retaining wall there. It at least, you know, sinks the trains down and gets them kind of out of the way of this whole thing and, you know, acts like a sound barrier, I guess. I don't really know. I'm not really too sure. I just think it looks interesting. I do think this bit should be smoothed out a little bit, though, to make life a bit easier. In fact, I wonder if we just did a straight slope down there. Yeah, that looks so much better. Then we'll hit back here with a bit of a smoothing brush and we'll never notice because there's trees in the way. And, you know, honestly, I'm kind of okay with this. So with everything in place, including a nice little wraparound of hedges on the small police station, I want to come in here and start playing with surfaces because I want to make this place look interesting and inviting and just like a pleasant area to be, even if it is just a space for different emergency services and all that stuff. So we're going to go around this area and we're going to be using this nice sort of manicured grass to just make it look the part a little bit. I want this to come right down to, let's say, about here. We're going to stay underneath these roads and get it to line up right about there. And I don't know if this is a new feature. It might be, it might not be, but with the surface tool now, it seems to be the case that the direction that you first go with the first little line segment that you place is going to dictate the direction that the surface itself goes. So when I place this down, I went from left to right, and so the lines are going from left to right. But if I was to go this way first and fill in this area, the lines will now go from top to bottom. So I don't know if that was always a thing. I really have no idea if that was always a thing, but it's kind of neat. And I definitely appreciate that that is now a thing. I think it's kind of a cool thing. So absolutely no complaints from me. As for the trees that we're putting in here, oh, did I also mention that there's now an age selection thing just in the game for trees as well? You don't just have to place them as little babbies anymore. That's just in Cities Skylines 2 now, which is also pretty good. Now, let me see here. I kind of want these trees to be, let's say, about 6 meters apart. We'll start right about here. And I think that's all right. It might be a little much to have that many trees, but down at ground level, it's kind of going to separate things pretty well. I'm also thinking we want something around the parking lots themselves to sort of act like a, like some sort of curb, but we'll get there and we'll deal with that when we get there and we deal with that. We do have fence options. I can go in to find it. I can search for, you know, fence, and we'll find something or other in here. We have dog park jump fences. We have residential fences like this. I think these are all a little bit much. I need something really low profile. Honestly, this is pretty good. I don't mind that at all. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can sink that into the ground. I mean, elevation is locked. I don't know if it is or not. I have no idea. Does that do anything? Does that change anything? I don't think it matters. Regardless, I don't... Oh, wait a minute. I think I totally can sink this into the ground. If I go to, not -10, but if I go to like negative... Let's see, maybe down to -0.1? What about there? Ooh, now we're talking. So this could be made to look like a bit of a curb. So if I was to get like this guy or this guy, maybe not that one, maybe the brick one would be interesting. And then lower it down to like -8. Oh, that's the one. That's the one right there. That is absolutely what we need to be doing. Okay, so I need fixed length, and I'm gonna need these to be as close together as I can possibly get them. So if I start here, actually I want to use fence mode for this. If I start here, there we go. I am all sorts of pleased with how that's turned out. I do think we need a little bit more color in here. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the lack of bushes and stuff like that, but that's a decent little start. I think what I would like to do before we even sort of go near color is I want to come in here and just get things like some alder trees. And I'm going to get a couple of varieties of ages here so we can get some different sizes and whatnot. But I want to start surrounding this space with some different trees just to start enclosing it a little bit. And there we go. I think this is going to be job done for this little emergency services section of Newmarket. Now, I do think it might be an idea to go in here and just remove some U-turns, remove some unsafe turns, and maybe get rid of you as a straight shot across the road. I don't really think we need that. I don't think we need a dedicated right turn in here either, but I'm going to give them one so that these guys have a dedicated lane to turn into on each side, which they now have. And then in terms of traffic lights, I don't know that we need to really do anything with this, to be completely honest. I would almost be inclined to say that we could just get away with stoplights or stop signs rather. And I think that should be enough for this little intersection, given that it's mostly going to be emergency traffic coming out of here anyway. It has also done pretty good for the need for ambulances in these districts. The rest of the city is still suffering quite considerably with that as a bit of a problem, but it has definitely made an impact on all of these districts, which is what we were looking for. So moving on, we do need to deal with this garbage problem that is all across the city. We also seem to not have enough customers in a few places here, which is a bit of a worry. We've also got this garbage problem out here at this crematorium, and I can't help but wonder if I could just maybe get rid of this crematorium. Now, this is something that I built when the Economy 2.0 death wave first hit, so I don't really think we need a crematorium out here. And I'm kind of wondering if I could just go ahead and repurpose this land for a new recycling center. It's relatively close to the suburbs. It's relatively close to this chunk of the city. And I mean, it's out of the way enough that I don't really feel too bad about the idea of doing this. Also looks like we have some stuff underground that we're going to need to deal with just ever so slightly. So we'll get rid of you and get rid of you. And then I guess we just go in and start clearing this area out. That should be enough land for me to do what I want to do. If we go into garbage management, we have got some choices. Obviously, the incineration plant, it will collect and burn garbage, turning it into energy. This reduces garbage accumulation, but produces air pollution. Can be upgraded with a garbage truck depot, etc., etc. Landfill, not really interested. Recycling center will collect and sort garbage to produce reusable materials, which are sold. This produces income. Can be upgraded with a truck depot, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So we also have this industrial waste processing site, but again, I think we'll stick with a little recycling center, since that seems like a much better shout. So this thing is going to live, I want to say, right about there. And I think that's a good place for it. We obviously have this little thing at the side here with a bunch of garbage in it, but that's okay. The garbage truck depot is going to go at the back there. We have the hazardous waste collection thing that we can add to it. We have a storage extension as well that we can add to it. But of course, we can now just place these wherever. So I don't need to stick them on the side of the building. And so I'm probably not going to do that. What I would like to do is just come in here with some alleyways. I want them to snap to the sides of the building. And I want to go like this. I want to go like, do I want to surround it? I think I do. I think I'm going to surround it, and I have a reason that I want to surround it, but we'll do this. I want to have a look at this guy and figure out where exactly it's going to need to go. So it is 7 units back. There's an easy way that I can make this work for me. If I just extend this road out to here, I can grab you and put you right about there. So that seems pretty good. I should then be able to come down. What is this going to be? 56. So if I go for 112 and across, I should be able to grab another one of these guys. And, ooh, I didn't quite get that right. That's okay. Let's just get rid of this and this. So not 112 meters, but we want to go maybe 120 to make this work again the way I want it to. That's what I'm looking for. So we'll have those guys sort of back to back, which seems good enough. And then the other thing on this was the hazardous waste thing. This is faster processing. Now this can go over here as well. And I think that's exactly what I'm going to do with it. So let me just flatten the land a little bit more. So just out to there. We'll get ourselves this hazardous waste processing thing here. And I want to say here. So we'll have 2 of them. I don't know if we need 2 of them, but I'm going to go for 2 of them. And then this is going to come out and just around the back of these guys and up to about there. As for the road that's going to get people in here, I'm kind of thinking here. I think right about there's the shout, because then you can just drive straight through. And yeah, I'm actually okay with that. Let's go ahead and just upgrade these sections of road as well. So everything is sort of surrounded by what sort of looks like a fence. Although maybe, do I want to do paths around this? I don't think I need to. Let me start hitting it with a smoothing brush, and then we'll get it connected to the highway. We'll start detailing around it, do a bit of landscaping and all that good stuff. But just very quickly, we want to go in here, smooth this thing out as best we possibly can, which, I mean, it's going to give us some pretty steep walls on some of these sides, but I'm kind of okay with that, to be quite honest. I think it'll look interesting, to say the very least. So we'll just go across here like this. I don't love how this looks. I almost want to say that this should be a little bit sharper. So if I grab from there to here and hit that with a slope tool, I should be able to make this look sort of interesting. If I actually go from there to there and just sort of come down here like that, hit all of this with a slope tool, and then to hit this with a much weaker slope tool to give us a little bit of an edge on this, but nothing too crazy. I think that'll look better if I can get it to slope the way I want it to slope. I can see what I want to do in my head. I just can't get it to do what I want it to do in the game. I think that's a little better there. I've kind of messed up this cliff, haven't I? I think that's all right. I think we can work with that. I think that'll have to do. Let's just hit this with a slope or the smoothing tool as well. And honestly, yeah, I'm okay with that. It's just this big platform with a recycling center on it. That's all it has to be. Doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Maybe just a little bit of loving around the outside here as well, and then we're good. And there we go. We've got garbage trucks heading out, or recycling trucks heading out to do their thing. We've got trees all around here. We've got some poplar trees lining the parking lots. I've got some birch trees in and around everything as well. And hopefully this is going to do what I need it to do. And so while we're waiting for all of that to start working, I want to come into the downtown area and I want to make some changes because there are some new education buildings and there are also things like this, the urban firehouse. We also have the urban police station. In education, we have the urban elementary school and the urban high school. So my thinking is that I could go in here and take out this old elementary school, and I could maybe take out some of these buildings back here as well, just because it gives me some space to play with. I'm gonna keep these buildings here because I do think they create a nice divide between the college and what I'm gonna be doing here, but I think taking these guys out is fair enough. I'm also thinking that taking out all of this decoration is probably not a terrible idea. So we'll go in, we'll get our good old tree brush. I think what we do is we get the terrain height at this corner and we just flatten this entire space. We bring all of that land up to this height. We're going to need some retaining walls around here to sort of make this make sense. But I think it's going to give us another nice little dedicated space for education. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. So if we go in here and we get retaining walls, we can do retaining walls basically the entire way around this block. And it does admittedly look a little bit strange, especially over here since the terrain or the land, the road rather, starts to go down, but I don't mind it. I don't think it looks terrible. I think it's definitely interesting. I think that's how we're gonna choose to describe this. It's definitely interesting. We'll bring this down. We'll bring the strength up a little bit and just see if we can't get this to be a little bit better. Since we have this weird little dip over at this side. I think that's being caused by this building though. I think that's a police headquarters. So I think there's only so much we can do with this, and that's okay. This is a good start. This whole set of roads, this all might have to go away. That bus stop's gonna have to go away as well, I think. But we can make this work, is what we can do. Okay, so one complete crash to desktop later, we have a platform. And hopefully I can build on this platform and get a nice little center for education here in Linden. Now, this is still not really what I'm looking for. So I think this school is going to get moved down by about a tile just so we can kind of avoid this weirdness going on. I think really the only way I can completely avoid the terrain doing what it's doing would be to redo this section of Rosewood Street, which I'd really rather avoid doing. So I'm not going to, essentially. And then this guy is going to fit right about here. We're going to get the extension. We're going to get the rooftop sports thing. We're going to get the backyard courtyard thing, and we're going to extend you as well. Or alternatively, I could try and get a little bit more creative with my use of space right here. And if I was to go in and I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this, but if I was to go in and place some roads kind of like this, that gives me some space to put some buildings in here, which might look kind of neat. So if we go in and we get ourselves the urban elementary school, it can sort of sit on this corner, for example. We could put the urban high school right next to it. I could sort of push them together if I really wanted to. I don't know if I want to do that. But the cool thing with this urban elementary school is it might be better served by being moved to, for example, this spot for a moment. Because what I can do is I can go in, I can get myself some NA mixed housing. And if I just, I mean, I don't even need to zone this. I can place it manually, which is probably what I'm going to do. If I search in here for mixed, for example, I can do something like this, which I think might be the better call, sort of integrating the elementary school into a bunch of mixed use buildings. Down here, I'm going to need to probably just de-zone all of this since the buildings have been placed manually. It should be fine. I think that might be the call though. Just integrating the entire thing together like this. Now, I will say, I'm not really sure what to do with this space back here just yet. I haven't really figured that out. It might have to be some kind of park or plaza or something like that. I also have no idea how to connect this all together. I mean, that's definitely an option there as far as junctions go. It's definitely not the most pleasant, but it might have to be what we go for, doing a little something like that. I don't love it, and I don't imagine traffic is going to love it much either, but I think that might be the play right there. As for connecting here, I mean, maybe sort of a similar story. We go across like this, and then for these guys also maybe sort of a similar story. It goes up to, I don't know, I want to say there, and somehow I curve this all together. I guess something like that is what we're looking for. So I think what I'll do at this point is just come in here and get myself some regular paths, and I want them to just stick to the sides of these buildings, because I think what we can do is just bring something right down and around all of this. Now it's going to get a little bit weird with some of how this all connects together, but something like this is going to mean that I can have people walking right through the middle of this space, which is absolutely what I'm looking for. I'm also thinking we're going to need to use the surface tool just to get a bit of control on what's going on here. So this guy, I mean, this is not at all what I need it to be doing. So I'm going to just extend this surface out underneath this path so that we actually don't have that weird sort of extension going on anywhere, which, I mean, we now don't, which is great. So that nicely encloses that entire space, which is good. In these corners, I think I'm going to try and do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to just bring this kind of down here and here just to sort of fill in those weird gaps that we have going on. We'll do the same thing here and here. So we have those nicely filled in. Nothing too crazy going on there. We have a little bit of a gap in here that we can absolutely deal with. So we'll put a node. Let's see if I just drag you back and then drag you to here. I should hopefully be able to get something kind of in the middle there. No. All right, we'll do it this way instead. So bring you down to here. So again, that corner is nicely filled in. And then my thinking is we do have some surface level parking here. I don't know if I want surface level parking. I might get some kind of parking lot in here, but I'm thinking that for now, I'm going to get some grass around these roads because I think that kind of makes sense just for decorative purposes. And then I think we'll also go ahead and put some trees on that, because this entire area is probably going to have a decent bit of landscaping around these edges as well. So trees the entire way around there seems like a good shout. And then I wonder, there are some other types of parks. There's one in particular I'm thinking of, the Ring Park. It actually kind of fits pretty well right there. Now, I kind of wonder if I could move this, if we turn off all the snapping, if I just rotate this around. So, hold on a minute. So the road connection's on that side. So if I swing it around this way and I just try and get it as central as I possibly can, which I think is about there. Does this look at all interesting if I was to put it, say, there? You know, I don't mind that. I don't know how people are necessarily going to get to it, but I definitely don't mind that. And I'm wondering, can I just use these guys? I absolutely can come off of there. Okay. Well, this makes my life so much easier. Let's turn off all of my angle snapping and figure out where this little path connection is going to go. I'm kind of thinking right about there for one of them. In fact, would it make more sense to just sort of continue that curve straight through? It almost might. So try and just continue that curve, I think, like that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then on this side, we kind of want to try and do exactly that same thing. So from about here, we want to go... Oh, how is this one going to go? So it has to kind of go that way. Which unfortunately, well, maybe more like this. Does that look like it's continuing the curve? It doesn't really, does it? we go. I got a little bit sidetracked along the way with this entire thing. I'd kind of intended to put a high school in here, but I think this looks cool. We've got some housing. We've got some new housing building across the street. We've got a new elementary school in here that replaces the old one that admittedly, you know, this whole thing takes up more land than the old elementary school did, but I think this looks a lot cooler. This looks a lot more interesting, and that's kind of what I was going for. I wanted something that just looks, I don't know. I like this a lot. I like the way the sun's hitting it and it's kind of clearly visible. I also really like the vibe of sort of coming down this road and you just get around this corner and it's just right there. It just looks really, really neat. I'm really kind of pleased with how this whole thing has turned out. And that's why it's perhaps a little bit disappointing that through a whole lot of that build, I had my game paused, meaning that the garbage problem hasn't really gone anywhere. We're also seeing a massive wave of not enough customers across the city, which doesn't make me all that happy, but I'm sure things will balance themselves out soon enough once all those recycling trucks get into the city and start doing their thing. Now, before we start moving towards wrapping things up for today, I would like to come in here because we have this old firehouse and I want to get rid of it because I do think it would be an idea to put the urban firehouse in here since it kind of makes a little bit more sense. So it's going to live right about there. It has nothing that I can really do with it, unfortunately, but that's totally fine. I think what we'll do then is take out those buildings as well and maybe just put a little bit of mixed housing into this space. So we'll do a little something like this. We'll do a little something like this as well. And then maybe something like, maybe high density right here. Something a little bit different right there. Seems kind of interesting. But what I'd also like to do is I want to take out a couple of these buildings because I want to see if I can play around with some zoning here. So we'll keep we'll do something like this, or rather we'll go maybe a little bit larger with this to get a 5x5 in that spot. Can I get is there a 5x3? There absolutely is. Is there and the game crashed. Just what I needed. Okay, we're back in it. Not too much was lost. I just had to sort of rebuild everything I was doing in this space, but this is good. Having this little urban firehouse in here, I think is perfect. It takes up less space. It maybe has fewer vehicles, but I think it makes a lot more sense for the area. And then for the rest of this, what I'd like to do is come through here with, it's very tempting to do a road through here. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's legitimately very tempting to just have like a weird sort of alleyway that drivers could theoretically drive through. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't know if we should have this weird alleyway that people can just drive through, but I'm sort of willing to give it a shot and just see how it goes, because I could have some fun with this if I really wanted to. Like this guy's having a great time already just driving on the grass. That's the way to go. But what I can do is come in here and grab some surfaces and just start to sort of extend these guys around in different ways and fill up this space a little bit better. So we have some nice grass right there. And then the rest of this would just be pavement, right? So the rest of this would be starting here and essentially just going the entire way through this space. We're going to want to make sure anarchy's on for this as well. It'll come up to here. It'll go all the way back down to here and loop right around to where it started, making sure we get that corner. So right to about there. And that seems weird. I'll be honest. Like it does seem weird and it is kind of weird, but I don't mind that. I've got to be honest. Like I really don't. It's I even got an ambulance trying to get through there right now, which is definitely something. I'm also realizing that because I bulldozed a bunch of buildings, we have like a lot of homeless people just sort of stood around right now, which they'll figure out, I'm sure. Oh, it's really strange just seeing the, I like that though. I do. I like that the ambulance can kind of cut through the alleyway there. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's neat. It's different. And so I think I'm going to keep it. I'm also thinking I'm going to put, maybe a birch tree or two just sort of back here to fill up the space a little bit, because we haven't really got much else for it. We can be doing oak tree, or what about a hickory right about there? Again, just to sort of fill up the space a little bit. Okay, so with this all built, that gives us a nice urban firehouse. Like I said, we have the alleyway doing its thing, which is largely ambulances because this is a one-way street from the hospital, so that kind of makes sense. But something I'd like to do is get rid of this elementary school. I'm not going to spend forever detailing what I'm going to do here, but if we just have a look at some of our education stats, which are in here somewhere, and for the life of me, which one of these is education? This one? This is education, right? Yeah, we could use more high schools. We could use more elementary schools as well, but we could definitely use more high schools and definitely another college and another university. We need so many things. Anyway, getting rid of an elementary school is probably not the best bet, but I'm going to because I don't love that one. And like I said, I'm not going to spend forever detailing this one the way I did the last, but I would just like to come through here and get ourselves some kind of urban high school in here. So we'll clear out all of the trees that we don't necessarily need. Oh, no. That's actually why we're going to keep the game paused just for a second, because we don't want this zoning in here either. At least not right away. Because what I'd like to do is get myself this guy. Good old urban high school. It looks pretty neat. It's kind of interesting. And it sits kind of nicely in this space. Now, this is kind of I was looking for more on this side of the building. I'm not going to lie. I guess this is the front of it. So, oh, there's a lot of buildings in the way. Let's move it down into this corner where I think it'll look a little bit better. I don't love that it's on a slope, but I don't know if there's much I can do about that unless I... unless we do a retaining wall again, which really don't know if I want to do all of this again. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of wanting to get some zoning in here, so I don't think we're gonna do retaining walls the entire way around. I will do one on that side just because I think I can get away with it, and I think I'm gonna go in here and do some stuff with some paths so we can kind of level this all out a little bit. But let me just flatten the terrain here. And I'm just going to extend some surfaces here to sort of make it look a certain way rather than actually being a certain way. So let me see. How am I best going to do this? We want to extend you a little bit further. We can go a little bit further and just the teeniest tiny little bit further to there. We'll bring you out to about there. And that's about as much space as I want for this like plaza thing right here. This area could maybe be a park of some sort. We have got the tiny city park. We've got the dog park. We've got the small park. We've got the small plaza. The small plaza might actually be the goal here. Just looking at it, it's annoyingly, it does sort of conform to the terrain, and also annoyingly, it does have fences around it, but we can fix that. We can absolutely fix that. We have got the technology to do that. So it's by no means the end of the world. And then I guess what we do is, well, this is kind of where I wanted to get one of these paths, because if I put a path back here, I can put a key wall alongside that, and then we can have it sort of act as a divider between the high school and everything else. So let's just give that a shot with this kind of key wall right here. I really don't know what we're going to do with it at this end of things. I haven't really figured that out yet. We can sort of put a little slope in. We can bring the path down to there. That's a little better. We could hopefully then put a wall on it. This little section of surface could be dragged out, and then all of this can be leveled out to the height of this lower road, and we can put zoning on it. I think that's going to be the plan. So let's just see if that works. If I can just level all of you out a little bit like this. And you know, I think this is a pretty good little addition to our downtown area. Yes, it's brought the elementary school slots down a little bit, but I kind of like this. It's a good little use of the space. It's a little difficult to see because, you know, it's on a corner surrounded by really tall buildings, but I think it just kind of works in the space. You got the main entrance there. You got space to drive underneath right there. We got this little plaza thing right in front of it, a bunch of trees, got a nice path that goes down along it, got some trees dividing it, and these new buildings as well. And I'm just, that's a lot of motorcycles. Good Lord. Must be a biker gang living in this tower. But regardless, I like this a lot. And so I suppose now that we've managed to build a new medical center and little small police station, and then hopefully work towards dealing with the issues regarding, you know, garbage and whatnot, even if it's not really, I mean, look, it's kind of gotten worse. And then of course this fancy new urban elementary school, which I'm really pleased with. And then the firehouse, the alleyway, and this high school. I think it's fair to say that we can leave it there for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.